American Airlines Flight 185, a detailed account. Date March 14, 2012. Route Miami International Airport, Florida MIA to Los Angeles International Airport, California LAX. Aircraft Boeing 757200. Passengers 175 passengers and 6 crew members. Overview. American Airlines Flight 185 was a transcontinental flight departing from Miami bound for Los Angeles. The aircraft took off as scheduled in calm weather conditions. The passengers were settling into their journey when, at cruising altitude, an unexpected sequence of events unfolded, testing the resolve of both the flight crew and the passengers. The incident. Approximately 2 hours into the flight, at 35,000 feet, the aircraft's right engine experienced a sudden loss of power. The cabin filled with a faint scent of smoke as alarms rang in the cockpit. Captain Sarah Mitchell, a veteran pilot with 16 years of experience, and First Officer Jack Daniels sprang into action, methodically running through the emergency checklist to address the engine failure. As they worked to stabilize the situation, the airplane started to veer slightly off course, and the autopilot had to be disengaged. Turbulence in the surrounding airspace compounded the problem, making control of the aircraft more challenging. Captain Mitchell declared an emergency to air traffic control and requested a diversion to the nearest suitable airport. The response and the passengers. Flight attendants worked quickly to reassure the passengers, many of whom were terrified. Some passengers gripped their seats in fear, while others quietly whispered prayers. The cabin crew demonstrated oxygen mask usage, prepared the cabin for an emergency landing, and provided clear instructions in case of a potential evacuation. Despite the tense atmosphere, they maintained a sense of calm professionalism. The descent and landing. With one engine inoperative, Captain Mitchell skillfully maneuvered the Boeing 757, initiating a controlled descent toward Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. The pilots coordinated closely with air traffic controllers to ensure a safe approach, and fire and rescue teams were mobilized on the ground in preparation for a potential emergency. The landing was tense, but Captain Mitchell executed it with exceptional precision. The aircraft touched down smoothly, and the passengers erupted into applause and relief as the plane safely rolled to a stop on the runway. Emergency responders quickly surrounded the aircraft, but fortunately no evacuation was necessary. Maintenance crews later discovered that the engine failure had been caused by a mechanical fault in the turbine system. Aftermath and impact. The incident highlighted the importance of rigorous training and quick decision-making in emergency scenarios. Captain Mitchell and First Officer Daniels were praised for their professionalism and calm demeanor under pressure. The passengers of Flight 185 would forever remember that flight, not only for the fear they felt but for the incredible skills displayed by the flight crew. Prelude: a routine beginning. The day began like any other at Miami International Airport. The warm Florida sun cast its golden rays across the tarmac, reflecting off the gleaming fuselage of American Airlines Flight 185, a Boeing 757-200, prepared for its transcontinental journey to Los Angeles. Pilots Captain Sarah Mitchell and First Officer Jack Daniels conducted a meticulous pre-flight check. Captain Mitchell, with 16 years of flying experience and a reputation for cool-headedness, felt confident about the day's flight. First Officer Daniels, a highly capable pilot in his own right, joined her, ensuring every detail was in place. Boarding proceeded without a hitch, with passengers from all walks of life embarking on what they expected to be a smooth and uneventful flight. There were families with children, business travelers tapping away on laptops, and vacationers looking forward to the West Coast. The cabin crew, led by Chief Purser Maria Gonzalez, made sure everyone was settled in and comfortable. The aircraft taxied to the runway, and at 10:03 a.m., Flight 185 roared into the sky, leaving behind the beaches of Miami and climbing steadily toward cruising altitude. The passengers leaned back, some drifting off to sleep while others enjoyed the in-flight entertainment or the magnificent view of the clouds below. The calm before the storm. 2 hours into the flight, the Boeing 757 was cruising smoothly at 35,000 feet over the desert expanses of Arizona. The captain and first officer had just exchanged pleasantries, discussing their favorite flying destinations, when a sudden and jarring event shattered the tranquility. The aircraft's right engine made a loud metallic bang, followed by a series of violent shudders. In the cockpit, alarms blared and the engine indication and crew alerting system ICAs displayed ominous warnings: right engine fail and engine fire detect. The vibrations reverberated throughout the cabin, causing passengers to jolt in their seats, eyes wide with alarm. The flight deck, a test of skill and composure. Captain Mitchell instinctively took the controls, her hands steady but her heart racing. Engine failure, she announced to First Officer Daniels, who immediately acknowledged and pulled out the emergency checklist. The duo had trained countless hours for situations like this, yet the adrenaline coursing through their veins made every moment feel surreal. Shutting down the right engine, Daniels said, following procedure to secure the failed engine and prevent further damage. Captain Mitchell disengaged the autopilot and took manual control of the aircraft. She was acutely aware of how vulnerable they were, flying over rugged terrain with only one functioning engine. Any mistake could be catastrophic. "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday," Captain Mitchell radioed to air traffic control. "This is American 185. We have an engine failure and are requesting an emergency diversion to the nearest suitable airport." A TC responded promptly, directing them toward Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, 150 miles to the north. The controllers cleared the airspace, giving Flight 185 a direct path to the airport. Captain Mitchell began a gradual descent, carefully monitoring the plane's speed and altitude to maintain control with only one engine. Inside the cabin, fear and resilience. Meanwhile, in the cabin, chaos and fear gripped the passengers. Some screamed, while others clutched their loved ones or buried their faces in their hands. A middle-aged businessman who had just ordered a coffee from a flight attendant spilled it all over himself, too stunned to care. Children cried in confusion, and a young couple held hands, whispering prayers. Chief Purser Maria Gonzalez and her team sprang into action. Years of emergency training guided them as they moved up and down the aisles, reassuring passengers and providing clear instructions. "Stay calm, everyone. Fasten your seatbelts and place your heads against the seat in front of you if we have to land quickly," Maria instructed, her voice firm but calm. She demonstrated the oxygen masks, preparing everyone for the possibility of cabin depressurization. The cabin crew's professionalism provided a thin but vital layer of reassurance, keeping panic from spreading uncontrollably. Passengers watched the crew, clinging to any hope that they would get through this ordeal safely. The descent, a battle against the odds. Captain Mitchell maintained constant communication with the TC, updating them on the aircraft's condition. With every minute, the plane drew closer to Phoenix, but turbulence in the atmosphere complicated the descent. The Boeing 757 bucked and swayed, the remaining engine straining to keep the plane aloft. The pilots focused intensely, knowing that any lapse in concentration could be disastrous. First Officer Daniels kept a close eye on the instruments, monitoring engine performance and the airspeed indicator. "Speed's looking good, Sarah," he said, trying to project confidence. Yet, both pilots knew that landing with one engine required absolute precision. The aircraft's asymmetrical thrust made it prone to veering off course, and they had to compensate constantly. As they neared Phoenix, Captain Mitchell and Daniels prepared for the landing. "Gear down," Mitchell commanded. The landing gear deployed with a reassuring clunk, and the captain briefed the cabin crew for impact. Maria and her team relayed final instructions to the passengers, bracing for what could be a rough landing. The landing, a moment of triumph. The runway at Phoenix Sky Harbor came into view, a beacon of hope amidst the tension. Captain Mitchell lined up the aircraft for the approach, her hands gripping the yoke with determination. Fire and rescue vehicles were stationed along the runway, their lights flashing in anticipation. "Hold on," Mitchell called over the intercom as the plane descended. The Boeing 757 touched down, its wheels screeching against the asphalt. The remaining engine roared as Mitchell applied reverse thrust and brakes, fighting to slow the massive aircraft. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the plane came to a complete stop. The cabin erupted in cheers and sobs of relief. Passengers embraced one another, and Maria thanked everyone for their cooperation. Emergency responders surrounded the aircraft, but there were no injuries. Captain Mitchell and First Officer Daniels exchanged a look of exhausted triumph. They had done it. The aftermath lessons learned. In the days following the incident, American Airlines and aviation authorities conducted a thorough investigation. The cause of the engine failure was traced to a mechanical fault in the turbine system, leading to new safety protocols and inspections across the fleet. Captain Sarah Mitchell and First Officer Jack Daniels were hailed as heroes, their calm and skilled handling of the crisis lauded by the aviation community. The passengers of Flight 185 would never forget that harrowing journey, but they were united in gratitude for the flight crew who had brought them home safely.